Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Starman from 1984, starring Jeff the Dude Man Bridges, Karen Allen, Charles Martin Smith, and Richard Jekyll, directed by John Carpenter. Now, before I get into this, I have reviewed his Halloween before, John Carpenter, I mean, but I have seen The Thing, his take on it from, what was it, 1982? And it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I remember it being pretty good. But will this be his best work? Well, let's get into it and you'll see what I mean. We open in space, where we get a radio man saying to the aliens to come visit planet Earth. As we get an alien coming to planet Earth in the year 1977 in a small town called, let me see if I'm saying this right, Chequamegon, jeez, Chequamegon Bay, Wisconsin, where we meet a recently widowed Jenny Hayden, played by Karen Allen from Raiders of the Lost Ark, where while watching the TV and tries to go to sleep until a spaceship crashes lands. And this opener is a grabber and introducing to the main female character, but in my opinion, not quite as gripping as Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where I feel suspense in that movie as this alien arrives to Earth, and how could Jenny not hear the crash landing did bother me, but she'll eventually see the crash land as well as the alien himself, and the score did feel a little techno, which is not always a bad thing in 1984. The alien sees a piece of hair from her recent widow, whom turns into her widow, whom I'm guessing his name is Scott, but I'm going to refer to him as Starman, played by Jeff the Dude Man Bridges, for the rest of the movie. And he speaks an alien language to Jenny until he speaks perfect English. And this scene is a little odd as he watches some home movies of what Scott, whom Starman is disguised as, when he was alive, and he pulls the trigger on a gun, and again, Jenny can't hear it, which again bothers me to death. But the acting is good from both Jeff the Dude Man Bridges and Karen Allen. Starman walks out of the house naked and sends out his 7 small spears, which he turns into pure energy, and that's when Jenny wakes up and brings out some clothes for Starman to wear while he's blue, and Starman comes back into the house and he off screen puts the clothes on, and they almost drive off as her truck isn't working, but he magically turns it on, and they learn they have to go to Arizona because that's where landing area 1 is at. And he has to be there in 3 days as the day comes and Jenny runs a red light, which is dangerous, while we meet scientist Mark Sherman, played by Charles Martin Smith, as well as cold-blooded NSA Chief George Fox, played by Richard Jekyll, something like that. I forget how you say his name. Please forgive me. As he discovers the alien is on Earth, and Jenny tries to call for help because she is led to believe she's been captured by Starman and a hunter trying to help her. But Starman gets his spear to stop the hunter as he tries to teach him humanity isn't savage. And the writing is a little off as far as a fish out of water goes. And honestly, I do not know why this is with the Columbia Classics, as this doesn't feel like a classic. But I do like the performance by Jeff the Dude Man Bridges, as he's like the fish out of water, but a character. But this isn't making me laugh, as this doesn't feel like a comedy. They both go to the bathroom while they get some gasoline in their car, and a man is freaked out by the Starman while he watches him going to the bathroom. And as he leaves, Starman says, "Have a nice day," while the man says, "Up yours," and flips him off, while Jenny writes a note saying she's been kidnapped, and he asks about it, and she wants him to shoot her, but he doesn't, because he doesn't want to kill anyone, as he learns from the humans, and he sings a song on the radio to awaken Jenny, not on purpose, by the way, and he runs a yellow light after witnessing Jenny running a red light in the first place. And so far the movie is entertaining, but it doesn't feel like it could be a classic in my opinion. Starman says if he doesn't get to Arizona in 3 days, the other aliens will take off without him, and he will die on Earth. And next thing you know, we see a dead deer all tied up, and an idiot comes up to them and calls them Dear Bambi. and they eat at a restaurant where Starman stares at the poor deer while Jenny tries to tell him about life, like love, for example. And I do like Starman more than Jenny, as she has a dramatic arc. In my opinion, Star says a curse word he when a waitress delivers their food and they start eating their food. As Jenny tells the Starman, she has to use the restroom and finds a back way out of the building. And she tries to escape while Starman goes to the parking lot and releases the deer, as well as resurrects the animal and lets him go free, she is a witness, as well as the idiot, and the idiot and his friends tries to beat up Starman until Jenny takes out her gun and scares them off, and the waitress gives Jenny her money back. And the idiots try to get them beat up as he flips them off and says, "Up yours," like that one guy did. I should rephrase that. And they drive away and escape until they become fugitives themselves. And that scene was kind of amusing, as the cops follow them in a small town, in a hotel, at the restaurant. Works fine. And this is an entertaining movie, as the character Jeff Bridges is playing is the best in the whole movie, and it is adequate at best. And I was surprised that I saw on IMDb that he got an Oscar nomination for this performance. A little weird. Starman and Jenny leave the hotel room after a guy tells them the cops are looking for them, and they get chased as Jenny is shot, and Starman saves her life by getting out of the car as it blows up, and Mark and George try to locate them but can't seem to get to them on time. Meanwhile, Starman puts Jenny on a homey truck and sees he has 2 more spears left, like he has 2 more pieces of power left. And Jenny has been unconscious for a while Starman watches her until she wakes up and looks for Starman as he leaves her and hitches a ride with someone else, which feels like a bad idea, as this movie has bad ideas, like Jenny calling the cops about the kidnapping as it was a mistake, and she talks with Mark and tells him to leave Starman alone and hangs up, which is something the government never does, but at the same time, it was kind of sweet, but in a predictable way. Starman and the guy he hitched with bump into military service, where Starman will be identified as an alien until Jenny gets them away from the military, and they hitch a ride from a man with a truck, and Starman, learns more about life, like how Jenny can't have a baby, but most women can. But there's some women who can't get pregnant at all, which some can, which is an interesting topic, but not for this movie's purposes, but maybe another day. As Jenny gives Starman some fresh clothes to wear, and they start smooching, and I'm thinking, what a random time to do so. While they're on a train, and their chemistry is fine, but that scene came up randomly, which was funny in a strange way. But at the same time, I went with it. Jenny wakes up on her own, while Starman doesn't want to wake her because he likes the way she sleeps, which is a little creepy. And he's led to believe he made a baby in her, and it might be a boy, and can predict his future, and says he could stop the baby if she wanted him to, but she hugs him and says she wants to keep the baby. And he shows her where he came from in space, and they arrive in Las Vegas and find a rent-a-car place until Jenny finds out she has no wallet on her, and he plays on one of the slots and wins a lot of money by that slot, as well as another slot. So 2 different slots. And the rent-a-car out of Vegas, which was amusing when he wins a lot of money by 2 different slots, I'll say it best. Mark and George have a talk about how Earth invited Starman there in the first place, and by there I mean Earth, as Starman drives to Arizona, and they talk about how he wants to go home, and they stop by a convenience store that is also a diner and try a cherry dessert, and Jenny asks if he has a wife back home in his planet until a sheriff comes in and with some backup, as Mark arrives to the crime scene and talks with Starman and Jenny, as he asks questions about if his aliens have been to Earth before, and she explains how Starman is dying, and Mark lets them go because he's dying until George comes in as he wants the alien. And as they say they were the wrong ones after they drive away, George wants Mark off the search team. And Starman and Jenny get there and they hear a helicopter coming as it's George and the government as they run for their lives until the helicopter is filled with people from the government led by George as he wants to fire warning shots at Starman and Jenny as they keep running while Mark witnesses it and an alien spaceship comes to Earth in their location that I swear looked like Saturn as Starman almost dies, but he sees he's been called upon by his aliens and Jenny asks to come with him, but he says he can't because she'll die and he says he loves her and she does him as well, and they say goodbye and to one another, and Starman goes back to their spaceship and leaves Earth. And the climax felt familiar, but at the end of the day, I was entertained by the movie from start to finish. But there is a TV show after this movie came out, and I never watched it, but it is on my 4K Blu-ray. But after this movie, and I'll explain after the rating, well, I might not watch it because you'll see what I rate the movie. Let's get into it. Now it's time for my rating. I'll give this movie a 6.8 out of 10. It doesn't feel like a classic, and I can't believe this is part of the Columbia Classics, as it kind of felt like an unfunny fish out of water comedy, but it also feels familiar, and I do like the performance by Jeff Dude Man Bridges, as he may be the best character, and at best, he was adequate. And the score was a little techno, which isn't always a bad thing for 1984. This movie isn't as good as Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and it's odd for sure, but it doesn't make it as good as the Steven Spielberg film. And there's times the movie makes bad ideas, but at the same time, it was for sweet reasons, but it can be predictable at times as well. There were times the movie went a little funny, but not in a ha-ha way, but more like a strange way. But I went with the movie as it was entertaining me, and this is a recommend, but I might somewhat forget about it in a few years, but at the end of the day, it was fine at best, entertaining, and that's probably part of the reason why I might not watch that TV show that it was included on my 4K, because there's no way that I'm going to waste another TV show not reviewing, but like watching after seeing this movie. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with Sleepless in Seattle. And until then, let's go home.